the CNN 10. We are Ken Blaine, and I'm your host, Carl Richards. News was breaking as we put this show together. A number of suspicious packages caused alarm and evacuations Wednesday in an effort to find out who's responsible. The people they were addressed to included former U.S. President Barack Obama, 2016 Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton, former Attorney General Eric Holder, former CIA Director John Brennan, and California Democratic Representative Maxine Waters. The package labeled for former CIA Director Brennan was sent to CNN at New York City's Time Warner Center. That led to the evacuation of CNN's New York bureau. Several of the packages had the same return address, the Florida office of Democratic U.S. Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz. That return address was also on a package delivered to the home of George Soros earlier this week. He's a billionaire investor and major donor to the Democratic Party. Officials do not suspect that Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz sent the packages. Devices found inside several of the packages appeared to be pipe bombs. That's according to an FBI counterterrorism agent in New York. Law enforcement officials say it looks like they were made in the same way. All of them were intercepted before any of the people they were addressed to could open them. No one was hurt. In the past, President Donald Trump has criticized several of the people the packages were addressed to. But on Wednesday, he said that threats or acts of political violence had no place in America. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio called the mailings an act of terror, and the FBI is asking anyone who might have information on those responsible to contact them. Next, this Thursday, we've reported on the rising tensions between Russia and the allies of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which the U.S. is part of. The commander of the U.S. naval forces in Europe says one thing that concerns him when it comes to Russia is submarine warfare. Why? For one thing, he says 6 of the Russian subs operating in the Black Sea or the Eastern Mediterranean Sea have a type of missile that could reach any of the capitals of Europe. That's likely to be on the minds of other NATO commanders as they begin their largest military exercise since 2002. It's called Operation Trident Juncture. It launches Thursday in Norway and the region around it. CNN's Fred Pleitgen is in Iceland to report on what's taking place both on and under the surface.
The Yuri Dolgoruki nuclear submarine, one of Russia's newest, on the prowl. Test firing intercontinental ballistic missiles from under the sea, putting America and its allies on notice.
They're letting us know that they're out there. They're operating in much greater numbers in places that they have not operated before.
As tensions between the U.S. and Russia rise, America says it's not overly concerned about Vladimir Putin's fleet of warships, but that the stealthy and powerful subs pose a serious threat to American and allied navies, supply lines, and even ports. America is reacting, sending its most advanced P-8 anti-submarine planes to the northern Atlantic region and spending $34 million upgrading this base in Iceland, where CNN was given exclusive access.
That's a lot of dollars.
The ocean is big. It's a chess match between kind of the sub commander and all the ASW assets that are trying to find them.
Submarines are now one of the centerpieces of Russia's Navy, the U.S. says, like the massive Oscar class, nicknamed the Carrier Killer because its mission is destroying U.S. aircraft carriers. And the modernized Kilo class, now capable of carrying cruise missiles. CNN was on hand when Kilos launched several off the coast of Syria, hitting ISIS targets hundreds of miles away. A threat America has to respect and react to, the U.S. top naval commander for Europe and Africa tells CNN.
Where we can no longer take for granted that we can sail with impunity all of the oceans, whether it be the North Atlantic, the Baltic, the Black Sea, the Mediterranean, and the Arctic Ocean.
The U.S. says it won't be intimidated by Russia's resurgent submarine fleet, but it is rallying allies to get serious about countering Moscow's underwater moves. Fred Pleitgen, CNN, Reykjavik, Iceland.
10-second trivia. What is the correct pronunciation of this word? Is it A, Schadenfreude, B, Schadenfreude, C, Schadenfreude, or D, Schadenfreude?
B. B.
The answer is
Yes!
B,
Let's
Schadenfreude,
go!
a German term for when someone laughs at the misfortune of someone else. there's a news term called a prono, as in, can I get a prono on this? Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, Susio Bambang Yudiono, Huma Huma Nuku Nuku Apu Aa. Those are some of the terms I've made it a prono
You know
for.
that took him a
But
ton of
there's one
takes.
man, at least, who probably doesn't need to practice as much as I do to say these words on air. He's the subject of today's great big story.
Can we play Kahoot today?
Professor.
Oh, I've seen
You
this.
can help me out here. Is this word pronounced cash or cachet?
I've seen this.
Cash.
Appreciate it, Doc. You see, when Jock Bailey pronounces a word, he pronounces it right. He can pronounce this thing.
Smaragda.
He can pronounce this thing.
Sharon Schnitter.
He even pronounces words that don't make a lick of sense.
Albumin.
And when you're that good with words, sooner or later, someone's going to pay you to say them.
Hi, Dr. Bailey.
This is Jock Bailey, the official pronouncer of the National Spelling Bee.
Luxembourg.
Luxe.
Gala. Sherbet. Giro.
Oh, shit.
GIF.
Before Jock's days
That's
as the
such a
foremost
controversy.
pronouncer of persnickety words, he began his spelling career on the other side of the microphone. Jock was a competitive speller, and in 1980, he found himself in the finals of the Scripps National Spelling Bee. His word? Elucubrate. So he said,
ELUCUBRATE. And it means to burn the midnight oil, to study all night.
and with those 10 letters, Jock became a champion. 23 years later, Jock had elucubrated all the way to the big show.
Propionephenone. Roquefort. Pyroclastic.
Can I please have the definition?
But sometimes, even Jock's meticulous pronunciations don't tell the whole story.
English words are not always spelled as they sound. One thing that makes English words really hard to spell is the schwa. The schwa is that like in butter, or unutterable.
The Y in syringe, the A in balloon, the O in freedom. They all sound the same spoken out loud. A speller's nightmare.
The longer and weirder a word is, the easier it is to spell. Take the steak fish of Hawaii, the huma huma nuku nuku apua. That's an easy word to spell. It's just long. It's a weird word, and weird things stand out and are easier to remember.
Onomasa, Hernimatia.
Correct.
For a man with perhaps the most legitimate claim as the authority on pronunciation, Jock takes a rather agnostic approach to the right and wrong ways to say things.
A lot of people are kind of amazed that I know how to pronounce all these words, but I don't. I read them from the dictionary. Well, how does the dictionary know how to pronounce a word? Because they go out there and listen to native speakers. If there are a whole bunch of people who pronounce a word a certain way, that makes it a correct pronunciation. People who have very strong opinions that there's an incorrect way to pronounce a word. But it's like saying, that dog barked wrong. That's not a bark. Well, the dog gets to decide.
Thanks, Jock. I reckon you've got more wisdom than all the books in the library.
Library. Ask him. Liberty.
When flying over an ice shelf in the
Library.
northern Antarctic Peninsula, it's normal for observers to see chunks of ice
Library.
like this. What's unusual is when they spot something like
Hello.
this, a rectangular sheet of ice that looks like it was stamped out by a giant cookie cutter. NASA says it's natural, and a marine glaciologist says the structure of the sheet's snow crystals and how they break
That's
apart
so cool.
is what's responsible for the sheet's special shape. Glad we have the ice beginnings of an explanation. What's the isasa least we could do? Don't want to fall into the trapezoid of having a mystery we couldn't untangle, especially with something in such good shape that it'd go viral on Insta Parallelogram. I'm Carlos.
Oh my God. That was terrible. Nice music. Oh, we get to watch another one.
Okay, what did we write down? Nathan, what did you write, bud? Hold on. Go ahead.
This kid.
Zico, what do you got?
Pythons that were in the package. Commander, warfare, nuclear,
Oh,
submarine,
look.
America.
Very nice job. Hey, we got
Not
Natalie.
Obama. Obama.
It's okay.
Obunga. Allah Akbar.
Very nice job. Chase.
Bomba.
Justin.
Hi.
Hi.
That's it?
Bomb.
Nice job. All
Mm.
right, let's watch yesterday's.
Allah Akbar.
You can
Allah
put it in the
Akbar.
trash. I don't really.
Do it, do it, do it. Do it again, do it again.
Thanks for asking, though.
Alright, ready? Allah Akbar. Allah Akbar. Skip, dab again, dab again. Got it.
That's not right.
Okay.
Category 5 hurricane made landfall in western Mexico. The region was bracing for another Pacific cyclone Tuesday evening. This
Seriously?
time, it's Hurricane Willa. At one point, when it was still out at sea, Willa had rapidly strengthened. Classification on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale. Willa is 6 miles per hour, but the storm weakened as it approached Mexico. Tuesday afternoon, it was a Category 3 hurricane, with wind speeds of around 120 miles per hour. The first area directly in its path was an archipelago of 4 Mexican islands called Islas Maria. And after it passed over them, Willa was expected to arrive on the mainland between Mazatlan and Puerto Vallarta. Airlines canceled their service to those cities as Hurricane Willa got closer, and Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto directed his government to do everything it could to protect those in the storm's path. On the ground, forecasters were expecting large and damaging waves and rainfall of between 6 and 12 inches that could cause flash flooding and landslides in several western Mexican states. This has been an active hurricane season in the Pacific, including Willa. There have been 10 major hurricanes in this region this year. That ties the record in the Northeast Pacific that was set in 1992. Opening to the public for the first time on Wednesday, the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge. Those are the places connected by the longest sea crossing bridge on the planet. It dramatically reduces the time it'll take commuters and tourists to move around the region. And it's covered with cameras to keep tabs on drivers. If they're detected yawning too much, for example, police can be notified. There's also a catch for people who live in Hong Kong. They'll need a special permit to drive their cars across the bridge. Most will have to use either a privately operated shuttle bus or hire a special car to cross after they've gone through the immigration check necessary to travel to mainland China. Also, critics say a different bridge that's expected to be finished in 2024 will make this one redundant. Still, the new crossing standard is an unparalleled engineering effort.
China rarely does anything small, but even by Beijing standards. This is Hong Kong and Macau, making a city of Zhuhai for 3 hours to 30 minutes. It has 2 artificial islands, an undersea tunnel, and 4.5 times more steel than San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge, a wonder of engineering, and a key part of China's plan for a greater Bay Area linking 11 cities and 68 million people. A big plan drawing big criticism.
The regular driver in Hong Kong can't use this bridge. Not allowed. Oh, it's a white elephant. A big, big white elephant.
Hong Kong lawmaker Claudia Mo sees the bridge as yet another way for authoritarian China to tighten its grip on semi-independent Hong Kong. Similar to the high-speed rail line to Guangzhou that opened last month, called the Trojan Train by some.
They're trying to flex their muscles, telling Hong Kong people to behave, especially after the umbrella movement. they think Hong Kong has become very unruly, very disobedient, and very ungrateful. Ultimately, that we need to be taught a lesson.
An expensive lesson at that, she says. Hong Kong paid nearly half of the $20 billion to build the bridge, a staggering sum given the city's widespread poverty and crippling housing shortage. The bridge took 9 years and cost 7 construction workers their lives. Conservationists fear it could also kill off the endangered Chinese white dolphin. Like it or not, this bridge is here to stay, built to withstand earthquakes, super typhoons, and cargo ship collisions, a symbol of China's determination to push forward with its own agenda, no matter what the critics say. Will Ripley, CNN, Hong Kong.
Oh. That's really cool. Yeah, it's water falling. It is. Imagine being on that.
You should go on a field trip.
Let's go on a
Type of
special field.
CPR can give anyone the power to help save a
I know
life
you are, but what
working
am I-
only with their hands. Every year in the U.S., there are more than 350,000 cases of cardiac arrest. It's not the same thing as a heart attack. In a heart attack, a heart muscle gets damaged, often because of a blocked artery. In a cardiac arrest, the heart stops beating and a person stops breathing normally. The vast majority of cardiac arrests, around 90%, are fatal. But the American Heart Association estimates that between 100,000 and 200,000 lives could be saved if cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, is given right after someone goes into cardiac arrest. A type of this treatment called hands-only CPR is exactly what it sounds like. Learning how to give it can help you save a life.
This guy again.
After all these years, heart disease is still the #1 cause of death in the United States for men and for women. 600,000 people a year roughly die from a heart attack or from some sort of heart problem. Almost all of those, 75 to 80%, are preventable. Just through dietary changes alone, you can start to reverse heart disease. Stress is probably the big common denominator when it comes to so many of these diseases, including heart disease.
No math.
Cutting back stress is certainly going to help. If you stay social, you're actually likely to have lower rates of these various diseases. Most people have heard or seen CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, in the past. But right now, think about it.